Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anders, and I'll be your guest host here for the Mapcore mapping contest, which has been going on for a while and is about to hit the end of it. So I thought I would record this video and sort of go through my thoughts about the different maps that have been submitted that are in the finals. Just sort of walk you through them and my thoughts about them. Hopefully it'll be a good time. So let's just get right into it. This will be kind of a strange format because it'll just be me talking for a long time while talking about maps in general. We'll start off with Abbey, which is a diffuse map and made by Lizard and the Whaleman. So, overall, I think it's a pretty good looking map. I'm not sure about the sort of medieval town fusion and Counter-Strike, but I don't really mind it all that much. And it's really well done, I thought. I haven't found any sort of really grand sort of texturing errors or anything weird like that. It just looks kind of nice, in my opinion. This is the terrorist spawn, and you've got your common pointers towards the A and the B bomb site, which is all great, and this is still looking, cool enough. Actually, this is one of the few maps in the finalists that has, I would say, a sort of a simple layout, which I'm going to use as a positive in most cases. I think as a mapper, people tend to sort of go really, really crazy when it comes to sort of designing the map layout, and it becomes really hard to follow and play, really hard to learn. I used to play around quite a bit with the mapping tool that's now called Hammer, but I used to use it a lot more when it was called Worldcraft, which is a very long time ago. But I actually have a lot of at least I know the tools that have been used. I won't call myself a good mapper, that would be taking it too far, but I could put a map together and put the spawns in and texture stuff and whatever else is in there. So I know a little bit about how much work goes into these things, and it's definitely something that people should get into if they're interested. It's a tool that can be learned, but it also takes quite a bit of passion to see the whole thing through. So anyway, we've got to the B-bomb site, which is here. One of the things I always look for is how a mapper will have used their clip brushes. So for the uninitiated, clip brushes are just it's a sort of a tool for a mapper to make sure that you can't go certain places. Like the reason we can't go over this wall is because there's a huge giant clip brush, which I just showed you here. The command to see these is r_draw clip brushes. I should use a console, shouldn't I? Draw clip brushes 2 is what I use, so just sort of swap between 0 and 2. I have a bind for it because I use it to do theory crafting, right? But this sort of shows you, why you can't bump into things. It's also a tool that's very well used whenever you find a set of stairs somewhere. So whenever we do that, I'm always gonna check to see if the mapper has sort of done what he should have done and made them into a ramp, which you could see that the guys have here. This is very important because otherwise in Counter-Strike, your recoil is going to go all over the place when you run up a ramp. It's fine, but if they were actual stairs, then your aim would sort of do this when you run up, and that's just not going to work at all. So for gameplay's sake, you want them to be ramps, which they are, and that's good news. But I always want to check those little things. This is the middle of the map, and this is following sort of a very basic philosophy in map making when it comes to Counter-Strike, which is that you have, one or two ways, and usually it's one way that splits into two, which is what's happening here. Both these routes lead to the B bomb site, which is fine. So, one or two ways that lead to a bomb site, and then if you win the fight for the middle, which is here, then you get sort of an additional way to attack the B bomb site. That's fine in my opinion. I think that's a layout that's very easy to work with, and it's been tested by sort of a lot of competitive maps, which is the reason why we sort of know that it works. And going the other way, we end up at the A bomb site, which also has 2 routes, but these 2 routes I would say they make the A bomb site a lot harder to control because they're sort of far apart, right? There's not one smoke, or there's not one position that's gonna have you covering all of this. So if you're defending the A bomb site, you can sort of either defend this or this, but chances are you can't really do both, which is not necessarily a big problem. It also means this middle route that if you're defending A and it turns out it's actually a B attack, you have a way to sort of get there in a reasonable amount of time. The next thing I always look for is timing between where the CT spawn and where the bomb sites are, and how far, that's the B bomb site, and over here is A, how far they sort of have to get there, right? Because sort of broadly speaking, we want the counter-terrorist team to be able to get to the bomb site before the terrorist team does it. Or at least, that's how most successful maps work. Maybe someone could come up with another way, but it seems the most fair, you know, that you could sort of get there and set up and, you know, figure out how your defense is going to be. The middle here also has just a little bit of an edge towards the CT side, which is this, you know, high ground, the apartment level, whatever we want to call it. But yeah, I actually think, I don't know if this would ever be a competitive map. I think, I'm wondering if the style of it would prevent it from being that. I know that sounds so silly because we have Inferno and we have Dust, and those are set in some pretty strange locations, but I don't know, there's something a bit too medieval about the overall feel for me to sort of want to see this competitively, but I actually think the layout is not really terrible for it. It's following sort of a basic formula, which is always worth exploring. Some of the stuff that sort of leads into the actual, I would call this sort of a staging area for the terrorist side leading into the A-bomber side, seem to me to be, you know, just sort of filled in a little bit. I don't mind the fountain, that's fine, but you know, some of this area around here just seems like it sort of had to be there. But yeah, I think this map could play out in a quite a fun way. And I'm going to put a lot more weight on sort of the structure of the map as opposed to the aesthetic of it. I know I've been talking about that a little bit, but I think how a map plays is way more important than how it looks. But sometimes looks will get in the way of, you know, how it plays, so that can be a bit confusing. But overall, I actually quite like this map. I ran through all the maps before I recorded the video, and in my mind I didn't remember enjoying this map all that much. But now that I sort of revisit it and look at the layout again, I think it's actually pretty decent. Maybe the problem actually is that it's too safe. Like, this is a concept that's so well tested. It would have been fun to have seen some sort of risk being taken somewhere, you know, to sort of say, okay, this is what makes the map stand out a little bit. But I don't mind it. I think it's pretty cool. I'm gonna swiftly move on to the next one. I'm choosing these at random, by the way, and we're gonna go to Apollo, which is a hostage rescue map, which is kind of interesting. Don't get to see many of those. Obviously, in my mind, I'm gonna assume that means the designer of it, which is Vea, CR Tech, Voron Stov, and JSJ Sadones. I'm sorry if I'm probably mispronouncing these horribly. Forgive me, guys. So I have an exe file that I always execute so that I can get, you know, all the weapons and I can fly around, and the round timer. Oh, by the way, that reminds me. I should probably set this up because I usually do it on diffuse maps, so we'll do it like this. Otherwise, the game keeps restarting all the time, which is annoying. So I'm in the T-spawn here, and obviously hostage maps are a bit inverse in that you sort of want the terrorist team to get to the hostages first so that they can stop the CTs from getting them. And I actually think maybe there could be a bit more creative play with this in hostage maps. Like, why couldn't you have the CT sort of almost spawn with the hostages and then they have to sort of get them out in some way? Instead, now they have to go and pick them up and then bring them all the way back to the CT spawn, which is all the way over here. Let's see, which is through here. So I think when I downloaded this map, it said map in progress. So I'm thinking that the guys developing this didn't have as much time as maybe they wanted to sort of finish it. I think some of the stuff that sort of here, you know, gift shop and like they seem to be a bit out of place in my mind. But that doesn't really bother me all that much. There are, you know, same with the clip brushes, some inconsistencies, you know, like there's one here that would suggest that somewhere along the line someone has said, hey, let's make sure people can't jump on these, but then it's only sort of been applied halfway. I actually can't jump on them anyway, but there's stuff like that. little things, you know, that sort of suggest that they didn't want people to do certain things, but then you sort of can anyway. I would say there's a really critical flaw in this map, which could be fixed really fast, but I have to point it out anyway because it sort of goes to speak to the gameplay of it. Now, if it isn't fixed by the time this goes on Face It or whatever, then or maybe it's already there, I'm not sure. I'll show you what it is. But so this is the T spawn again, and we have sort of, you know, a middle that you can't really get in here, and then you have the outside CT spawn and CT spawn. Now the problem is, I do think this is hilarious, but you can sort of shoot through this, and it'll go all the way through, and it actually will do an enormous amount of damage. Like, I think you can get it to do straight 100 damage. So, well, 97 is alright, I suppose. So that actually means you could sort of spawn here and just run, and then, you know, you essentially shoot people in CT spawn, and they can't do anything about it. They could do it the other way, which is, I guess that's fair, but obviously that is not the intention of the map, so that's a bit confusing. Now, something that is a bit interesting about this map. It's also partly a bit confusing, but then it is a hostage map, so maybe we can sort of forgive it. The other hostage, which is over here, there is a fun feature that I kind of like about this. Let's say I'm on the T side and I'm guarding this guy, and I hear that the other hostage has been taken, which is, see if I can find this by memory. Yeah, so the other hostage is over here, right? So let's say this guy gets taken, then one problem that some hostage maps have is that now I can't do anything, because by the time I get there, they will be in the CT spawn, and, you know, they'll win by rescuing that one hostage. They have really low expectations going into these rescue missions. But in this map, I think the timing is so that if I'm sort of here, I can actually take sort of a run down through this whole basement area, and I'll enter right around where, you know, CT spawn is, which means I can try and catch the people coming out from this way, which is where they would be running through. So that's interesting. That's sort of a shortcut. That means even if I'm in the wrong spot, I can sort of try and get there anyway, which I think is fair enough. You can't really do it the other way, which I mean, that might not be a big problem. Maybe you can just sort of go towards CT spawn from the other way. If you go this way, you just sort of get to terrorist spawn anyway. But yeah, the other hostage here, if he gets stolen, I'm gonna assume that most of the people on the CT side will try and get him back out the way they came in, which is this way. And it is quite a distance to travel, so, you know, maybe by the time they get here, you could sort of be coming out of there and try and stop them from rescuing him through here. So yeah, overall, I feel like they've done a pretty good job. Like, they have the same thing with the ramps on the stairwell that we talked about. Haven't really run into anything really annoying. One thing that people that absolutely ruins my experience in these sorts of things is if people have messed up the clip brushes so that I just walked into a window. So that, say you're sort of following a line like this. Actually, it just happened. So let's say I was sort of, you know, walking here. If I get stuck on this, like, I would much rather that this clip brush went all the way out so that I couldn't get stuck on this. Sometimes it doesn't matter, like, if it's intentional, if there's sort of a reason for it. But, you know, same with this one, the clip brush actually sort of goes further out than the wall. So if for whatever reason I was standing here and I, you know, let's say I was super sneakily hiding and I wanted to turn around, I could actually get stuck on this for no good reason. So that's something to be really careful about, because that really breaks the flow of the map. It's very frustrating if you're playing and suddenly that's what you're up against. There seem to be some sort of tiny problems. And that's what I said in the beginning. It feels to me like they maybe didn't have enough time, or maybe they wanted to sort of do too much. Which again, just to bring it back to the other conversation we're having about complexity, as soon as you add a lower level to the map, which they have here, even if the lower level is pretty simple, I would argue that all of the new players that are coming in to learn the map are going to have a very hard time sort of getting their head around it, because it is kind of difficult to sort of, you have to map one level and then you have to map another one inside of your mind and sort of try and figure out how do they fit together? And some people do this really quickly, and some people are really bad at it. And you have to imagine that your audience is, I would say, mixed up mostly of people who are bad at it, and then some people who are better at it. But it's worth thinking about that. You know, complexity it's really tempting. I used to always be tempted by this when I would sort of make my own silly maps, as I wanted to make them like really, you know, intricate and complex. But it's not always a good idea, because people tend to get sort of lost, and you know, no one is going to sit down and say, oh man, I'm going to learn this map. Just, you know, I'll spend a couple of weeks. You know, people want them to be intuitive and easy to sort of, you know, look around and find out. But I like the idea. You know, Space Center, always a good time. And I think with further development, maybe it could be a much better looking map. But I would say sort of aesthetically, maybe not my thing. But I'm also biased in that I think hostage game mode is in a bit of a weird place that I'm not necessarily loving anyway. Would it be a fun map to play? Probably. I mean, I think you would have to like hostage maps. So, like I said again, I'm probably the wrong judge for this kind of mode. So sorry about that, guys. But yeah, I think it's a concept that's worth exploring a little bit further, I reckon. And I would keep the lower level about as simple as this is. You know, not too complicated. Basically, in case development continues, I would say just keep it at sort of this stage and don't make it much more complicated, because otherwise people are going to get lost for sure. And then fix up the middle of the map so that we don't have people shooting each other without being able to see anything about where they're getting shot from. But apart from that, yeah, it's I'd say it does sort of look and feel a bit like a work in progress. The next one that we're going to be looking at is Asylum, which is made by Libertines. So we'll take a look at that. Again, I'm just picking these up in random order. So it's also a bomb and defuse map. And I think maybe this is one of the maps where you can really seriously get lost in, especially towards the center of the map. But yeah, it's called Asylum, and it certainly has the sort of architecture of something that sort of looks like it could be some sort of mental health facility. I always spawn on the T side when I do these tests, just because I want to see what the bomb zones are like, because that matters to me. Yeah, kind of fun looking. And I just started going left, so we're headed towards the B bomb side. Now, for some reason, the minimap here gets really confused, and I don't know why it's flickering all the time, but I'm no expert in that, so I'll just leave it alone. Going in towards B, and we end up there sort of fairly easily with a plant zone that's pretty well defined. That's important. Like, a lot of people, I've noticed this in some of the maps, people forget to highlight the plant zone, which can be very confusing to new people, because what you don't want to do is obviously sort of, you know, you can see it on the minimap, but if you're really new to the game and bad at it, you might not sort of realize too soon. So yeah, I would argue, I don't know, maybe it would be hard for a CT team to defend this. If even one Molotov is thrown, it could be kind of tricky, because, I don't know, people probably aren't going to be playing it as a professional level, but up here is pretty easily smoked, and if this is smoked as well, then, I mean, you're not going to have very many spots left to sort of play around with. But that's just my opinion. Otherwise, the bomb set's pretty cool. I don't mind it all that much. Again, the ramps are there. The clip brushes seem to have been applied pretty fairly. And this is the other way into B, by the way. This is fine. You know, it's one way towards B that splits into two, which is alright. Because if you just have one way, it can be very complicated. That's what we have on Inferno on the B-bomb side. There's just one way and it doesn't split, and that means it can be very hard for any team to sort of break through. Now, Inferno has changed, so now it's a little bit easier, but yeah, I think you guys see what I mean. Just gotta get the restart in. Okay, so we were still down here. Now, as far as I remember, this is the problem. So this is the middle of the map, or the sort of connecting bit, right? And if you go back towards the T-spawn, you're gonna sort of trace this stairwell. You go up here, then there's one route that leads sort of back to where we came from, towards B, and another route that leads towards the A bomb site, which is this way, and then back out here. It's gonna, just take a little bit here towards the A site, which again is clearly defined where A is. But the problem is, if you notice, there was another area back here. Oh yeah, that's T spawn, by the way, back here. So, but if we go down, as you guys noticed, there was another way that we could have gone, which is this way. And then we sort of end up out here towards the middle of the map. So we sort of have a connector that will lead us back to A and B. We also have a middle that will also sort of lead us back to at least A and T spawn. And that leads into another connector, which leads us to either towards the A bomb site, or it sort of is also the split route towards another entrance into the A bomb site. So now that's becoming pretty elaborate, that sort of middle connector, another connector, and 2 routes into B, 2 routes into A, that could be fine. But then all of this sort of labyrinth sort of style that goes on in between could make people very, very confused as they're running around. And I would guess that would be hard for people to learn. And if you come in from the CT side, let's just go to the CT spawn, which is here. You sort of spawn practically on the A bomb site, so that's fine. You sort of get to it pretty quick. So you've got plenty of time to set up. It's going to take a long time for anyone to get there. And you can run back. Down here would be towards the middle of the map, so you can have whatever battle you want going on here. And listen, this is part of the problem. If the T side loses this fight here, then imagine being a terrorist trying to sort of, attack the B bomb side, and if your mates in the middle have died, then it's gonna, you have no idea where the CTs are. They could be running anywhere at this point. It's very, very hard to sort of control that. So that's middle, and then back down towards the B bomb site. You get this sort of, high ground, and then the low ground is just if you sort of, instead of you just go straight from CT spawn, you're going to get to here. So that's all fine. That's from a CT point of view, it's a lot less complicated, but I would say especially that the connector surrounding the middle makes this, from sort of an architectural point of view, very hard to deal with. And I imagine the map could get pretty confusing. Yeah, another good sort of, good use of clip brushes, making sure that the transitions are smooth. You don't sort of, don't jump around too much when you're making your way through the map. Some of these walls, especially, this is, on the aesthetics front, but some of these walls, when they get like very big and the texture is all the same, it does give you sort of a weird feeling. Like the reason why you want to add lamps and, a bit of a wall or a bit of a sort of a garage door or whatever is because you want to break up really big surfaces. And it seems like that hasn't always been sort of followed. So you get some of these pretty big surfaces that are just all one texture. And that's usually not a good idea if you want people to feel like they're in a sort of a real map or a real place. But apart from that, it could be interesting. I think the style of world that we're in could be built into something that maybe could work. I like that it's not sort of too over textured as well. Like, I don't want too much fancy stuff going on either, but I definitely say it quickly becomes an incredibly confusing map. So maybe that's one of the downsides, and I think that's going to be a point that I'll return to with some of the other ones. All right, we'll switch to what am I doing? Map Biome. Biome. I'm not sure. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Which is made by JD40, and I do remember this map as being one that I kind of enjoyed. Like, it seemed to take a couple of risks that I'm not sure if they will work out, but it allows us to talk about some fun stuff. So we'll just go through it and see what happens. For one thing, I would say stylistically or aesthetically or whatever you want to put it, they've certainly, or this guy's certainly taken some risks, and which is really exciting. I think it's really interesting, because you've got this whole sort of really cool biodome going on, and I just love this. I mean, again, if it was to be accepted as a competitive map into the map pool, I don't know if it would sort of fit well with the general Counter-Strike theme, but not everything has to be judged just on whether or not it could make the competitive map pool. And when I say competitive map pool, I do mean, you know, like the tournament map pool, not just the matchmaking one, but really sort of the tournament one. But this is just, I think, really well done. It's so cool. You know, you've got all the vents. You've really got a feeling that you are in sort of a biodome, as it were. This stuff is really cool. So making rocks like these in Hammer can be quite tiresome, and it's very easy to make some mistakes because, how do I explain this best? There's a really weird texture thing that happens when you cut out these rocks like this, and if you do it incorrectly, the textures get really drawn out. It's sort of happened here, like they look stretched. Now, he's done a lot of these, like, I mean, an enormous amount. Like, look how much sort of rock there is, and I have to sort of look to notice it. So I would say overall, that's a pretty good job, you know, just keeping that smooth and cool, and it feels pretty real to me. So I quite like it. So much, in fact, that I forgot to sort of guide you guys through the map. We'll just go back the other way. We'll just go back and try to head towards the B-bomb side from T-spawn so that we don't forget what we're doing. Oh, actually, it's going to restart any second, isn't it? Yeah, we'll just do a quick restart, and then we'll have time to talk about it. But yeah, I quite like this map. I think it's pretty well done. So headed towards the B-bomb site this way. There is an entrance towards the center of the map, which is inside the biodome. But if we don't go that way, we just sort of keep on going towards the B-bomb site. We're going to go through a pretty easy path here. This one goes back towards the center. That's fine. We can sort of reconnect and don't have to go back all the way to T-spawn. That's okay. There is one entrance here, which is a pretty limited and narrow one. That can be a problem, sort of play-wise. There's another odd problem that this map has, which I don't quite get. But I would say the plant zone is quite tiny. Yeah, it is sort of more or less just in this area. It's not the end of the world, but I have to point it out. It's a little thing. But apart from that, it's a fun-looking bomb site. It does have some issues with which one of them is the really tiny choke that you're in here. And the other one is that you could potentially be fighting a high ground battle as well. Now, unless you take this position, in which case you'll probably just win the bomb site immediately, especially if someone's coming from down there. Yeah, but the way you get to fight that fight is, you know, take that red door that we're coming from, then you sort of get to go back here. And you would need to boost someone up here, which in itself is going to require some teamwork and some manpower. But yeah, if you go up here and take this fight, then that sort of adds the second angle, which is maybe okay. I would argue that can't be sure that you can win that fight, but you know, I accused one of the other maps of not taking too many risks. I would say this is a big risk in terms of mapping, which I kind of like. I think I don't know how this will play, but I would say I'd be tempted to try the map just to see how this plays out, because it's such a weird feature. And, you know, from a terrorist point of view, it requires a boost to get up here. Oh, did I? Oh, that maybe. Yeah. Would need a little bit. Yeah, we need a little bit of a clip brush here, but that's fine. But from a counter-terrorist point of view, you know, if you're up here and you make the decision to jump down, then you're really committed to that jump. You know, you can't get back up. So if you do it alone, then you're on your own. And if you do it as a team, then you can't get back up and defend, you know, whatever is going on up here. So it's absolutely fine, but it's just, to me, it's interesting, and I like it. So going back here, this is towards the middle. You know, we ran this way, so now we're back towards the center of the map. Red door, and then if we go this other way, we're going to be headed towards the A-bomb site, which is really fun looking as well. This is the A-bomb site right here. Again, the plant zone is quite small, but it's really well defined, you know, a little bit up here as well. But you get a pretty good sense of where it is. this whole place is nicely carved out with clip brushes so that we don't, you know, sort of stumble into too many things. You can get a little bit stuck, so I wish maybe the clip brushes would have continued all the way around, because if I'm fighting someone, and that would be one of the fun things of this map, is, you know, sort of fighting someone around here, you know, trying to sort of like, you know, what I don't want to is lose that fight because I bump into something as I'm backing up. So that would be really annoying. So more clip brushes in this area. But I can forgive almost all of this just because of the work that's gone into doing this. It's obviously taken a lot of time to sort of build this. That was the way to A from middle. The sort of primary way, I guess you could say, is this way. I got lost for a minute. So this is T-spawn again, and we can sort of go that way. We can go, so we can end up all the way up here. That is just a little camping area. And then that would be looking into A, or we could go this way. So again, I guess you could say there are two ways that sort of, yeah, how do you explain this easily? There's that way, and there's that way, and they both go sort of into one, which is the direct way, and then there's this other one that's sort of overlooking the A-bomb side a little bit, which you have to imagine is going to make for some really weird fights along this whole area, because anyone who controls this up here is going to be having an enormous amount of control of the bomb site. So CTs spawn very close by, as you can tell, so all they have to do is sort of strafe right for a little bit. You know, if you got the AWP out or something like that, you're gonna have an incredible angle to try and defend this from. And the range is really, really, you know, like if you've got this set up, then someone coming with an AK down here might be in trouble. That might be hard to look to sort of spot out. But again, one smoke is gonna do wonders, and it would be presumably easy to figure out a way to smoke that off and sort of have some measure of control to get down here. So yeah, I actually like everything about this. I think it's very well done. I think it's a fun map to play with friends and just test out and hang out in. And I think it's a little bit complicated, but not prohibitively so. Like, not so much that it becomes just unplayable. Which is definitely good news. I had to test this out. Can I die? Yeah. Oh no, well, I've got God mode on, but otherwise I could. That's interesting. That's clearly a choice, right? Because you could have blocked this up with clip brushes, but someone didn't. So fair enough. I like that. There should be consequences if you make stupid choices. So yeah, I like it. There's no underground that I found. It's easy to check that there isn't one. I think this map is pretty cool. Right now this map ranks pretty high in my estimation for a map that's just well done, and you know, a tiny bit of work on some of the clip brushes could be just a lot better. So yeah, I think that's really all we need to say about it. Just a good job. The next one that we're going to be looking at is called, why am I doing this? Birth. There we go. And that has been created by Grapen. How long is this video now? I'm just talking and talking. We've been recorded. Oh, 33 minutes. That's nothing at all. I thought this was going to be maybe much longer, but we'll see how it goes. So, another defuse map, and again, starting as the T side. We'll see. Oh yeah, now I remember. So this map is just very strange. This seems like the sort of map that I would have made, or would have tried to make fairly early on when I was mapping. Just a lot of enjoyment with sort of open spaces. It is really fun to map. Like, I really encourage more people to check it out, because it's a skill you can definitely learn. It's not so complicated that you could never learn it, and there's something fun about creating a world and sort of figuring out, you know, how everything fits together, right? So this sort of really open space I find kind of appealing. It doesn't necessarily go with the game of Counter-Strike, and I'll tell you why. Here's the problem with having big open spaces in Counter-Strike. Like, let's say I'm standing here and I know that there's someone up there, which is a place you can sort of go to. So let's say I think there's someone up here, and I want to cover this distance, so I'm going to start running. If someone peeks out now, then I can't go anywhere, you know, like I have to stay and fight that guy. And in Counter-Strike, a lot of the game revolves around sort of being able to fight around corners or using a box or crate or something. So when you have big open spaces like this, it forces people to play the game very differently, which is maybe a good thing, but most people don't like it. Anyway, that's the T-spawn going this way. We get to a strange place where we can sort of jump over. I actually think we can sort of look in. I think the CT spawn over there, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so they sort of, you can sort of almost, and again, you can shoot through all of this with like an AWP or something. So you can get here pretty quickly, and if anyone was sort of, you know, lingering around, there might even, I don't know if there are any holes you can look through, but you could boost up there and sort of look over, right? Because the ceiling is pretty high up. So that's I'm just not even going to criticize. I just have to point out that that's possible and that's a thing. Maybe we could just stand on this. Let me test this out. I have to test it out now. So almost possible to just sort of stand here. Not quite, maybe, but you guys get the point anyway. This whole thing is very odd. And then, you know, you go into another really big space where I think the CTs could already be down at this corner. But anyway, there's sort of a big path, and, you know, you could open this up to two different angles, but I don't see this having any effect. Like, the difference between walking this way and walking through here, to me, is the same, because I imagine the CTs are probably going to be sort of holding back here anyway. Like, I don't even know how you're supposed to hold this on a CT, because the Ts can sort of go in and plant here, and I think they can plant, yeah, they can plant sort of quite a ways around, right? So sort of all the way where the concrete is, I suppose. Yeah. So I don't think that the Ts are ever going to go plant here, because there's so many open spaces. So you're probably always going to try and plant here. And the CTs are going to have a miserable time trying to control it, because they can't be up here. Maybe they could have, no, they can't even sort of go and stand on that or anything. So they're somewhat limited in what they can do. They could stand all the way up here and sort of try and snipe you as you come by, but, you know, one flashbang and that's GG. So maybe as a CT you have to sort of run all the way down here and then try and fight people as they come out. I mean, there could be some logic to that, but still, it's all very strange and very odd in my mind. But I am kind of intrigued by the big open spaces. There's something about that I think is kind of interesting. The other way that you can go, if you're on the T-spawn, if you go towards the A bomb site, you sort of end up going this way. And, oop, did I run? Yeah, I did run past it. So, oh, sorry, B bomb site. It says A, but it is the B bomb site on the minimap, so that's confusing. But never mind. This is the A bomb site. I have no idea what we're bombing on either one of these, but that doesn't really matter, I suppose. So that's probably the faster bomb site to go to, as far as I can tell. I do like this strangely psychedelic picture that's going on here. But you get down, and then, you know, you've got the plant zone going on, which is fine. The map also has a center, which again is, well, I guess let's make this separate. There's a second way into A, which is going more through the middle of the map. But there's also a sort of weird connector that's going on, which is going down here. And this, as far as I remember, does nothing. Yeah, so this, I don't know what the idea of this is, but going back around, you can either come out towards the B-bomb side, which maybe that would be a way for the CTs to try and defend a bit more, is to sort of occupy the middle of it. And there's another way out here. So, yeah, maybe a lot of the CTs would end up playing close quarter combat in here and sort of try and make it hard. That makes a bit more sense to me. Still, probably easy to smoke it off and just get rid of it. So yeah, that's the sort of connector between A and B side, I suppose you could say. And coming down from the CT spawn, you would have to you spawn up here, you could either just go straight here and you'd be sort of, you'd be down in A, or you could take the long way around, which is underneath the bridge, which is kind of cool. And you would be towards the A-bomb site. So, yeah, I think there are probably too many open spaces to make this a map that's going to be very playable for a long time, because, again, every time you round the corner and you're out in the open like this, you're the one taking the risk. And the guy who's on the other side, if he peeks at the right time and you're on the center and you're in the middle of this, then, you know, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So basically, that's the big downside to having these open spaces and not that much coverage. But for just playing for fun and having a good time and running around with your friends, I think it's alright. I wouldn't say aesthetically it's off the charts or anything, but yeah, there's definitely something to work with, I would say. But to me, it looks like close to sort of a first attempt at a map, which is okay. But I don't think it's going to go at the top of the list for me. Alright, the next one that we're going to be looking at is Kaizen, I think. Kaizen, I don't know how to pronounce this. Made by Andre Valera. And we'll see. This has, yeah, this is the one that has sort of an Asian kind of feel to it. This has some very strange features as well that we could look at. Let's see. Let me do this. Maybe we'll just quickly execute these guys so that we can get the full round time and don't get lost. Come on. So yeah, just because otherwise the round timer is going to be 1 minute and 55, and that means I have to go and restart all the time, which is annoying. So T-spawn coming out of the subway, as you know, terrorists do train to work, and if we head this way, we're going to have quite a distance to cover, but eventually we're going to get towards the A-bomb site, which is sort of this area here, which is pretty, I think, pretty neatly packed in. Like, you can definitely tell that you're supposed to plant somewhere inside of this. Clip brushes are there here again to ensure that it's all smooth. That, like, you know, again, if you're fighting someone sort of running around like this, you really don't want your aim to, you know, do this every time you go up. So that could be quite annoying. We could sort of make the jump up. You can stand inside of these, which is not really, I think it doesn't really, I tried to look at this earlier and I don't think you get any kind of coverage doing this. People should still be able to see you, I think. If they don't, then that's their problem, really. So yeah, I don't mind this bomb site. I think the surroundings feel a bit sort of toy-like. And in case you don't know how these work, because it would be quite a lot of render power to build all of these in sort of full 3D. So what actually happens is you sort of build them a bit, you sort of build them in tiny, and then they get scaled in. So I imagine this is a lot, but this is sort of part of mapping that I never actually got to do. But it works like this for all maps, and I would say Andre's done a pretty decent job at creating surroundings, but it could be better, and maybe with time, it would be. It all feels very. It feels a bit futuristic to me. I've been to different parts of Asia, but this has like a sort of a RoboCop type feel to me. I don't know why. That was the A-bomb site going from T-spawn. There's obviously a middle as well. Most maps do have one. And running down here. Oh yeah, there's one departure from the middle that goes to sort of reconnect to the primary route into the B-bomb site. Because we came from here, but the other one would have been back here towards T-spawn. Did I get lost along the way? Oh yeah, T-spawn. So we could either sort of take the middle or go the other way. It's all the same to me. But either way, we're going to reconnect here and then This is the B-bomb site. This is hilarious to me, but this is the B-bomb site. This tiny piece here. So no planning here, and no planning over here. It's just this little thing that has some issues of its own. You know, in terms of people throwing Molotovs or whatever. You know, it could get very odd, but I don't know. I think that's just very funny that you're sort of forced to plant in this one spot. If we go back towards the center of the map, if we don't divert towards the B-bomb side like we just did, if we just sort of keep running, then we get what is almost sort of a back route into the B-bomb. I guess it is sort of just the second route into the B-bomb side, but that makes the B-bomb side very hard to defend, I would say. But then it does have its own oddity of having an actual bridge that goes over it, which means as a terrorist team, you have to clear a lot of space to be sure that no one's lurking around in the corner, that no one is sort of waiting for you somewhere. So I guess it kind of evens out. Yeah, this bomb set's very funny to me. I can't really explain why. But 1 second, I've got to put some eye drops in my eyes, because I've been staring at a monitor for too long, so I apologize for that. We're doing a sort of free-form thing anyway. Oh yeah, and the counter-terrorist spawn is really close by, so that's the bridge, and you can either go up, or you can go sort of down on the low ground, route into the A-bomb site, which is right there, so you spawn very close by, or you could go and fight for middle, which you probably should, because, again, otherwise, if you lose, especially, I think, as long as you're here, as long as you defend this, it'll be fine, but if you lose this part of it, then that B-bomb site's going to be in a bit more trouble. If you go into aid and you've got this, again, this sort of one-way thing, there are a couple of maps that have this. I mean, Cache has it for, as a sort of obvious example, from the known map pool, right? Like, once you go over the edge here, you can't really get back up again. So, if you were one of the mid players, and you're sort of, you know, being called towards the A-bomb site, then once you commit to going down here and heading towards, heading towards the A-bomb site, then you can't really go back, which is interesting. And again, it's one of those little map features that I think is really worth thinking about. I don't think this map is... It's not too complicated, but there does seem to be a lot of map that I doubt will ever get used all that much. You know, like a lot of these routes are, you know, take a while. A lot of this sort of space here and here, I don't think are going to be used all that much, because a lot of these fights are going to be happening elsewhere, basically. Oh yeah, and there's a vent. I forgot about that. A vent system that sort of goes towards the middle. So hard to say what kind of impact that would have. This is sort of the T side of the middle, and the CTs will be here very quickly. So I expect that it's meant to be the T's using the vent to sort of, you know, they want to get back into middle and try and switch their point of attack, which is fine. It's good to have shortcuts, so that you can have a sort of a dynamic attack and you can quickly change things around. That's definitely worth doing. Oh yeah, there were some issues with this map, put it like that. Like one of them is you can get up here and stand here, which is fine. Clip rushes allow for that. You can just jump from the bridge if you want to. That's how I found out. But if you stand here, you can sort of look through parts of the map. Now this happens if some of the map isn't textured, but it actually happens even if I do this. So you can sort of, because there's no texture under the table, I can sort of look through it. And that's a bit of an issue if some poor guy is going to try and charge me down, then I can see him. I can't shoot him. Well, I can because of the ult, but even if I couldn't shoot him, I could still see him, which is definitely unfair. So, got to be careful about that. Just a bit of a texturing issue, but otherwise, clip brushes and whatever else seems to have been applied pretty reasonably to me. And yeah, it's a very strange concept again for a map. Like the location itself doesn't seem to be the sort of the regular Counter-Strike-ish type location. But again, I don't think that has to matter all that much. You know, I kind of like the experiment of it. And yeah, maybe this map could be fun to play. I'm not 100% sure that I love everything about it. I think maybe it's trying to do too much all at once. And I don't think any part of this map is memorable enough that I would sort of go back and say, man, I've got to test this out. I really want to know how that works. But maybe that's my loss. The next one that we're going to be looking at is called Off Time, and is, I think, I'm going to have a hard time explaining this, but I think it's one of the most disappointing maps for me. And I'll explain why. It's because my expectations were so high. When you see the screenshot of this map, or at least the one that I saw first, I'll show you what I saw. Oh, actually, we'll just do the same thing just to avoid the round thing. Oh wait, we're on round time. I mean, I fucked this up. Gotta get the round time right, guys. Sorry about that. Because otherwise it just becomes insufferable. So the screenshot that I saw of this map was out here. You know, I saw this and I thought, yes, that's what I want. I want to play on a map that's that tall, you know. Like, I want to be able to go all the way up, and preferably I want to be able to jump down and shoot some guy with a shotgun right before I land. Some guy who's, you know, right down here. Because for those of you who didn't play 1.6, there were so many maps in 1.6 that were like this, like completely ridiculous. Where, you know, there was one of my favorite maps was one that was called Bungee, I think it was called, or Bungee Jump, where you basically spawned in two towers that were about this tall. And then way at the bottom, there would be like a little bath of water, and the middle one was so small that you had to land directly in it, otherwise you just die. But if you land in the water, because of the physics engine, you just survive. So people would jump and they would try and shoot each other mid-air, or they would land and try and shoot each other. But it was so stupid. I spent so much time playing that. But this is essentially a map that is on these three levels, and then obviously the bottom one. There's CT spawn here. It's a hostage map, and I found it to be unbelievably confusing. First of all, because of the whole thing is sort of round. There are just I actually can't give you a tour of this map that I could with the other one. All I can tell you is that there's a banana. That's a huge plus. But all I can tell you is that everything leads to everything else. It seems to me. I just don't even know. This is this is where the T spawn. So you can't really go up here, which is obviously what maybe I wanted. I wanted to probably do it on the outside, but this is where the T spawn, and they can either take the stairwell down, or they can sort of jump down the ladder. And then there's a further route down. Now we're on level 2. I guess that helps, but it's all very confusing. I would play this map with my friends, preferably at a LAN when I was maybe a little bit drunk and just having an absolute great time. Like, I think that could actually be a lot of fun, just because it would be so stupid. So I think this map could be fun to play. I just think map design wise, there's a difference between having a good map and having a fun map, I guess, if that makes sense. And again, I can't get over how disappointed I am that I can't be up there and, you know, slide all the way down or something, you know, surf down the side with a shotgun or something. Like, I'm so disappointed by that. But apart from that, I actually think I think you should try this map. Try it with your friends. I think it'll be worth it. That's all I can say. I don't know what, like, I like the concept. Squad made it. I think you did a good job. I might be unfair, but it's at the same time slightly ridiculous. Sirius is the next map that we're going to be looking at, which is made by Exodus, or L Exodus, I think it says there. And it's not quite the last one, but we're getting close now. And to me, this is again another concept that I'm just not sure I identify with the sort of overall Counter-Strike world theme. It's very sort of futuristic looking. I don't know if you can tell, but it's fine. Again, I'm not sure about the font here and sort of, you know, this looks, you know, Serious Corp. That looks like it's sort of a real logo, but then it says sort of pharmaceuticals and in like these things don't seem to match in my mind, but that's fine. T-spawn is here, and we make our way. There's really, you're really guided with these arrows, which is almost a bit too much, but certainly is user friendly. That's how you get to the B-bomb site, and the B-bomb site just sort of is what it is. It seems to me to be a really empty bomb site. Like there's so little cover here. I don't know how you would defend this on the CT side. It's very confusing. You can't be up here, you know, like all of that is all blocked off. So on the CT side, you just sort of you come in here and I don't know where you're supposed to stand to stay alive. But so I would say this bomb site it's just a bit odd, in my opinion. The CTs, by the way, do spawn right here, so they're right next to it. There is like this. You can't really go up here, but I'm just saying it would have probably been chaos anyway if you could have somehow spawned up here. Like that might have been a disaster anyway. So yeah, that's the B-bomb site. And just to go back and follow the lines, there is a middle part which is going to be this way. Following the red one would be B, but this is middle. And the middle of the map has a route into B, which is this sort of slightly upper one. Again, that seems to be designed for the T's to get here. And again, it just gives them another advantage in a bomb site where I expect they already have a pretty big advantage, which is a bit confusing. Going past here, I mean, the CTs are going to be here by the time that you are. So they, in turn, have this route that goes into A. We'll get to that in a second, because otherwise it gets too confusing. This is T side again, going into mid. If you go towards the B bomb site, there are actually sort of two different routes. So we get the metal detectors back. There's the A bomb site going this way, and running for a while. You eventually get to A, and you can also get to A, as you may have guessed, by going the other way. So through the metal detector, you're going to be going all the way up here. And you can overlook the A-bomb site. Can the chickens fall down? I really need to know, please. Oh wait, can't I just do this? Go on, chicken. I know you want to. Can they? Ooh. Yes. It is just walking on thin air, isn't it? Yes, there we go. Alright, they can. So, that's it. This is the one entrance that we talked about, and that one's the other one coming from the T side. And again, CTs, to me, seem to have got the short end of the stick. They can either go in here and they can try and fight for this control, which is fine, you know. I mean, that could sort of block off one of it, but again, how do you fight here? You know, like there's no cover, there's almost no natural advantage. All of these positions are going to be, you know, you're going to get your head blown off. They do have an automatic door, which the chickens can't trigger, I see. And then this carpet also gives me absolute epilepsy, but that's just me. I'm just gonna ignore that. So yeah, I would say the CT side on this map, I don't know what they have to do. I mean, like I would say they probably have to fight to get mid control, and then instead of defending the bomb sides, just, you know, power through and attack. Just make sure you attack, and because if you're standing on A and defending it, then how is that going to work out from your point of view? You can get there quick enough, which is fine. Oh yeah, by the way, to get to A, the sort of the main route to A, I would say, is this one from... And then, once you're here, you know, if your teammates win the fight up here, then fine. But if they don't, then you're going to get shot at from that direction and from that direction. Like, there's almost no way. You can go and hide in here, which is fine. Wait. The chickens can block the doors? That's so OP. Oh man, why don't we have chickens on nuke? Anyway. Yeah, I think even with the boxes here, it's going to be unbelievably difficult to try and defend this bomb site on the CT side. Like, I don't see that working out very well, especially because I believe you can quite easily throw grenades and such, like, you know, over the whole thing, especially if you know what you're doing. So, you know, you can it'll just be very hard to control any of this, I think. Very, very difficult. So, yeah, I think this map is... It's got the basic layout of sort of having a middle and having some routes to A and B from middle. But I think it's... In terms of where the CTs spawn and how they get to defend the bomb sites, I would say they're put at a disadvantage that I just think is going to be very hard to overcome. So I would do something about these bomb sites to make it more manageable from a CT point of view. And also the rotation times from here. I mean, like, if you're standing here and your teammates in B are calling, then your route to get there is still going to take you a bit of time, you know. Like, you'll be running for a while to sort of to get to the right spot. And that might not even be all that safe, right? It's going to take you a little bit to sort of get into the B-bomb site. So we'll see about that. That might have been a quicker route, actually. Yeah, if you're on A, I guess you could sort of run back here. But either way, it's gonna be a bit before you actually show up at the other bomb site. So apart from that, I think the design is kind of interesting. I like the tall ceilings in here, and I think there's something to work with. Some interesting features, but not, I think, my favorite map so far. The next one is gonna be Studio, which I recall as being again a slightly confusing map, but we'll get to it. Oh yeah, also I decided to ignore the whole talking point about performance, because I think it's... People have such individual rigs and, you know, how much computer power they have, that it's kind of hard to test if... I mean, unless I run into something where it's incredibly obvious that the FPS just completely die, I'm just not going to really worry about it. This map is... They've just gone all in with the colors. I almost have to respect that. It is called Studio, and there's an obvious sort of theme going through this, so they've really stuck to the theme of saying, yes, we're in a studio, and that's just how it is. So I kind of appreciate that, actually. Maybe we should just do this again. Just so that we get the round timer in. It is also a diffuse map, just in case anyone's wondering. So, heading out from T-spawn, going to the B-bomb site, we are going to have one route towards B, which is this way, or we can go up, and we're going to have sort of what looks to me like quite an incredible high ground advantage. This is the other way that we could have gone. We'll connect here, or we can go back out here, and then we're going to get right in here, which is the B-bomb site. So, and that's the route. So, you know, back here are the stairs. We can go up and out. I have to say, these fountain walls are just... You know, you've got the sound. That's incredibly tranquil. You know, I wish I had one of these at home, maybe. And they're in a lot of places in the map, so the map designer obviously liked them as well. Oh yeah, by the way, this is by Cellstorm, Tanuki Suit, and Hollande. I know that name. He does skins as well, so maybe he's done some of the texturing work for this. Yeah, so that's towards the B-bomb site. There is a departure from that into the middle, where you sort of go through a little bit, and you end up in this workshop-looking thing. Again, this is just sort of connecting in towards this, which is actually the middle. Don't be confused yet, because this gets quite a bit worse. This goes back out to what could be considered sort of close to T-spawn. T-spawn's here. So this is back out, and this is the A-bomb site where you sort of run around and you get in here. So this is the A-bomb site. But this middle part of the map is really quite confusing. So you get to it from T-spawn by sort of running out here, and then you're going to be entering it this way. And from here, you can either go towards the A side, which is up the stairwell, and then you sort of have a back route into A. Or, and this TTs will get here a lot sooner, so I'll explain it from that point of view. That might be easier. There's also this route, which is towards CT spawn, and then from middle again, you could end up sort of going back towards the B-bomb site. So, oh, hold on. I've just got to give a listen. 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. Just my son Walter, who is waking up, but it's all taken care of. So, yes, back to business. The B-bomb site, which also connects in towards the middle, and it already has sort of two main entrances. So I would say the middle connection here is probably more for the CT point of view to get there if they need to, in case they were defending the middle and they sort of need to help out at B, they can get here pretty quickly. So we should probably talk about CT spawn, which is here. Again, you've got the walls. This is disappointing to me. I've got to point this out. This wall, I obviously should be able to jump through. You know, it's just a wall of water, and I can't. It's very frustrating to me. I really, really, really wanted to be able to sort of jump through this. But I just can't. Again, clip brushes. Anyway, this goes to middle, this goes to A, and that goes to B. So, you know, you're not going to be very confused, but it is really cool looking. And getting to the A bomb site, this bomb site has quite a lot of potential, and it's very, very hard to say whether or not it's you know, good or bad. There's sort of the, you know, basic coverage and some spaces you can play around with. You know, you can even sort of jump up here. So there's lots of stuff like that. You are going to be attacked from an enormous amount of positions, as far as I can tell. Because when the CTs get in, or sorry, the Ts get here, they're going to have this staging area, which I think you probably won't try and defend. So you're going to let them have this. And from here, they can either go through here, which you might try and defend. You know, I can, you know, you might try and play aggressive here and just try and see if you can take someone down. But if you get forced back, then they're going to be able to shoot you from this angle and from the door over here. And if they brought someone with them to boost, because they would need that, they could sort of even get the, oh, go away. They could even get the jump up, right? And that would give them the entrance here. Now, once, I mean, if they boost two people up, then it's almost game over, because then they can sort of boost to look all the way over into the bomb site, and even then they could, you know, shoot through the clock if they wanted to. They could also jump over, which is, again, there's so much to work with here. I mean, if you're on the CT side, you could boost your own man up here, just stand here, and then, you know, you could get your own little guy up here, in which case defending this would be very powerful. You have to imagine that it would be hard for people to sort of check this without turning their backs on everything. But I expect that the CTs will have probably one guy on the bomb site, and then the other guy will probably be playing this area. So he can sort of either be, you know, taking a fight here, or he could be up here sort of preventing maybe even sneaking up to try and prevent a boost, or just defending the secondary spot here. So there's just so much happening in this whole area. Like, just in terms of map design, this is quite complicated, you know. You have the two entrances, you have another boost that goes up, and if you're on the CT side and you decide to jump down again, you can't get back up, so now you're sort of committed to it. But I kind of like it. I think it's... The reason I think this is exciting and not too complicated is that you can learn it pretty quickly. Like, you don't have to be a genius to figure out the sort of the layout around here. And yet, it is very different from almost every other design that we've seen so far. So there's something to work with, I think, on this bomb site, which is fairly interesting. The clip brushes are done fine. You can tell that they've been studying and working up on that, so that's all good. The other bomb site, I'm trying to remember. I think it's going to be quite a bit more tricky on the CT side to deal with, just because you almost, I think, have to go on the offensive, because playing around and hiding down by these boxes is not going to be all that great when someone has this high ground. Like, this high ground up here is going to be very powerful as soon as you have just one person. So, you know, one guy down here and one guy upstairs, and it won't be easy. So maybe the CTs will have to push out and sort of try and make the T side fight. But even then, they can't really fight for this because they're going to get shot in the back from up here as well. So I imagine there's going to be a lot more offense than defense on this side. Maybe. But still, I think this map is pretty well done. I think that there are some issues and some stuff to look at, but it's not so complicated that it goes completely nuts. Oh, there's another feature. Oh, this is... I was very happy when I noticed this. So, this is a good time to talk about this anyway. I've been talking about clip brushes and how they're used to sort of, you know, decide where people can go. I guess that's the easiest way to put it. Now, I would say modern map making, especially the type that Valve does, the philosophy tends towards saying people can only go exactly where we want them to go. So there's almost no exploration. Like, you know, if this was a Valve map, a lot of this stuff that I'm jumping on now would just, you wouldn't be able to jump on it. It would just be locked off. Yeah, they have locked this off, which is fine. You know, maybe you shouldn't be able to go up there, but a lot of the stuff would be locked off, and for sure, this stuff here, which is very interesting. So maybe it's a bit more complicated if you're on the CT side, but you can actually go up here and sort of, you know, make it this side of the map. And if you're coming in from the T side, you can actually tell that it's sort of almost designed to be that way. You know, there's a little sort of stairwell to get up there. You can't do it on your own, but you could do it with a friend, so someone boosts you up here. And now attacking the middle becomes very different, you know. You've got some coverage. You can, you know, be on the high ground while someone is, you know, entering from the low ground down here. It's very exciting to me to see this kind of opening, because in a lot of modern maps will have just completely blocked this off because, you know, you just don't want players to have too much fun, you know, jumping around and testing things out, which is something that I really like. I think some maps you should be able to sort of, you know, do weird and crazy things, and like I guess that's the same reason why I like this area over here. You know, normally this would probably be blocked off, and there would just be a lot of limits where the mapper has decided you can't do that. I like it when there's a little bit more leniency, but I think the reason why the philosophy is tending the other way, that you sort of say, no, you know, we will decide exactly how you can play with this map, is because if you're a new player and you turn up, like let's say you've never played this map before, and you sort of you join in and suddenly you get killed, like you're defending middle, and you've been defending middle all the time by just defending this, and so in your mind you've convinced yourself that that's how you defend middle. You know, oh, I've got really good at defending this, and suddenly someone that you've never seen it before, but some guy shows up and, you know, takes you down from here, and you might get a feeling that it's somehow, you know, been exploited, or there's something that isn't quite working out the way that you wanted it to, and so people sort of complain about it. I think that's the issue that happens a lot, is that people end up complaining about someone who is creatively exploiting the map against them. That would be my way of putting it. But I think a lot of people see that as being just, you know, poor map design in some way. And I'm not. I obviously disagree with that, as you can tell. But yeah, I wish more maps would be more fun to exploit and explore than they currently are. So yeah, I think Studio is actually pretty high up on my list of maps that I like, partly because of just the madness of it, and especially the bomb sites. So moving on to the very last map, which is made by Harry Poster, and it's called Tangerine. This is, I've talked about how I actually think all of the maps I've reviewed up until this point have been, in my estimation, not really fitted very well for the Counter-Strike world, as it were. I think this one is. And obviously because it is sort of slightly Dust Inferno type looking, but not quite. The color tone is just a bit different, and I actually just think it's beautiful. I think it's really well done. So yeah, I would say as a candidate for something that could legitimately fit into sort of a Counter-Strike world, this wouldn't be too far from it. It probably would need a lot more work, but I like the colors generally speaking. This is T-spawn, and going this way, there's something very interesting here that is worth discussing a little bit. So the B bomb site is that way, and you can get there by going up this ladder or going that way. Now they both connect here, and then you have to get to B. So why are there these two areas? That took me a little bit of thinking, but here's what I realized. The CT side can get, they spawn here. I've got to show you this. So they spawn here. They can run this way, and then they'll be sort of looking that. So if they have an AWP and you're trying to get to B, if you've got just a slightly off spawn, I think you can almost get caught by someone who's up there. So this is the quicker route. It's obviously just run like this, but it's also the one that exposes you to risk. So you could do the risk-free route, which is going to be a bit slower, but then you won't get shot by the guy who is, you know, in the A bomb site. So that is, if I'm right about the timing, that's very, very good map design. Like, I think that's very smart, and something that's worth keeping in mind for almost all of the maps. Anyway, whichever route you take, you get to the B bomb site, and it's kind of small, and there are these little sort of close quarter combat situations. Oh, I'll get back here. Just one sec. Back to B. So, you know, once the bomb is down, you get to sort of hide, and maybe you have a shotgun, you could sort of stop someone from defusing. You could boost up here, but you can't jump up here yourself. And there are all these little sort of spaces, right, that you could sort of play around with and try and hide in, which I think, after plants in this bomb site, are just going to be good fun to play around with, and it's going to feel action packed, is what I'm trying to say. And defending it probably is you know, it won't be easy, but it's definitely doable. A lot of close range combat, which I kind of like. This is the entrance from the CT side, right? This one goes through the middle, or towards the middle from B. So all the way out here, and then you sort of get to the middle of the map, which again, that's the cross. And if we follow that, we are in the A bomb site, blowing up the Tangerines apparently. So that's A. If you want to get to A from T-spawn, instead of going that way, you are going to be going this way. What's that? Okay. Again, I do love the color scheme of this one. I just think it's very well done. This we could consider sort of a staging area. We can go back in the middle if we want to. And we get sort of a high ground view of the middle, which you can jump out if you want to. Or we can just go back towards T-spawn, which is here. So just to give you some context, you know. Anyway, when we get to this sort of staging area, we have this sort of, you know, main route into A. Unless you've taken the middle, then you've got 2 routes. So again, middle is going to be highly contested, which it should be. Oh, and there's also a sort of secondary route. So it follows very basic map philosophy, but there's not a lot that I don't like about this map. I like the overall sort of spread of it, from CT spawn towards, wait, yeah, I messed that up. From CT spawn towards sort of A and B, and then having this middle that's really compact. Like, it's middle on this map is so close to everything. So once you're in the middle, you can go everywhere very, very quickly, which is gonna make the map really fast to play on, and just, yeah, I just think it's a good map. I really enjoyed. I hope to see more development. There are some, you know, little details. This is coming out of CT spawn. You can sort of get in here and make the, I believe, I swear you can make this on, yeah, you can make this on your own by jumping up. It's a little bit buggy. I think they should have made this easier, but that will sort of grant you a bit of a run down the middle. And there's something similar on this side. Again, this is CT spawn, and if you run in here, then going on one side will give you a bit of a sniper situation, but you can go on the other side here, and it'll get you back into A pretty quickly. So that's A bomb side. So yeah, some small features to sort of change it around, but not so big that it's going to change everything. Oh yeah, and they don't want you looking over the walls here, right? So no amount of boosting is gonna get you too far across the wall. So yeah, I quite enjoyed this map. I think it's very well done. The tangerines, I think those are oranges really. Maybe that's the game-breaking flaw, but regardless, I love everything about this. I think it's really well done. I like the design choices, especially this delay in going to B if you want to take the fast or the slow route. I think that's really, really fun to play with, and yeah, this is quite high on my list. So I'll submit all of my voting to the Mapcore people, and they'll come up with a joint decision. Again, got like a ton of people who are either judges or guest judges on this, so hopefully we'll just all have a good time. But I wanted to make a run through of all the maps to try and get you guys an idea about, you know, what I thought of them. Also, because I know people have put an enormous amount of time into them, so I wanted to showcase them as best as I can. Hopefully, I got some of it right with, you know, what the people designing it had in mind, what they wanted to do. And if not, then, you know, you're free to message me and tell me how I screwed it all up. But that's the basic choice here. I think Biomi and Tangerine are probably sort of top of the list for me at the moment. Maybe, yeah, maybe they are. Abby worked out pretty well. Maybe that's my top 3. Then Off Time as my map that I had dreams for, hopes for, but didn't really work out. But that's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I hope we can do this again next year. I think it's a really cool concept. More people should definitely get into mapping. It's a skill that can carry you in a lot of different directions, so it's worth thinking about. But that's it for me. Hope you had a good time. Follow me on social media and all the rest of it, and I'll see you soon.